Hello. Wait, I just waved.
I always wave.
Hello, I'm Amelia Dimoldenberg, comedian, journalist, creator of Chicken Shop Date, and I'm here with radio DJ, presenter, broadcasting legend, Lauren Laverne.
In this Vogue Visionaries session, we're going to be talking about our different journeys in the industry, finding your voice as an interviewer, how you can turn a passion into a long-term career, and hopefully sharing a few of the lessons that we've learned along the way.
Excited.
Me too.
So, Lauren, you started out as a teenager in a band.
Yes.
And now you've been in broadcasting for over 20 years.
Oh.
Talk to me a bit about that evolution of how you've come to where you are now.
Started a band in the summer holidays after I finished my GCSEs, and then things took off pretty quickly for us. I think we got a bit of a reputation as being quite funny. So the TV stuff that I did first came out of that, really. I was a guest on things like Never Mind the Buzzcocks, and then actually got into radio. But as soon as I got behind the mic, I just knew I'd found my thing. I always say it's like showing off, but in private. And for me, that was perfect because I didn't feel overexposed, but it just had this brilliant kind of intimacy, you know, almost like you're sharing a secret with a mate. So tell me about the series then. Obviously everybody loves Chicken Shop Day, and it's been going for a while now. How did you come up with the idea?
The YouTube series started 8 years ago, and before that it was a written column in a youth-run publication, which is a great way to test a format actually, is through writing it out first. Every Wednesday after school I would go to this youth club in Northwest London, and everyone there was really into UK rap and grime, and I was into McFly. I then thought I'd love to interview these musicians that everyone's talking about. And so thought of a format, and I thought a great way to do an interview would be a date. And I also wanted to go on a date because I'd never been on one. So it was killing two birds with one stone. And someone said you should go on a date where you would never usually go on a date to make it funny. So that's how the chicken shop element happened. And then I just found a friend of the magazine who had released a mixtape. It's called It's Nate. Asked him if he'd meet me at his local chicken shop.
Did he immediately say yes?
He actually did, which I don't know why. And then while I was doing the interviews, I think I did about 10. I thought, wow, it'd be great if people could actually see this, what was going on, because it was awkward, it was funny. I was playing the character from like the very beginning. But the issue was I didn't know anyone with a camera, and I didn't know anything about video production. So that was what was holding me back. And then my first year of uni, I met a camera operator. And I said, I've got this idea, I've got this column in this magazine where I go on dates. Can you please come and film it? And he was like, okay, sure.
And was that your first episode then? So would that be Gets?
The first episode was of Gets, yeah.
I mean,
which is such a great first episode to have.
If your music was a type of chicken,
Yeah.
part of the chicken, what would it be?
It'd be a fire.
you mentioned playing the character, and the person that you are on Chicken Shop Day is not quite you.
It's kind of an exaggeration of who I am. And so I just kind of played on that and actually kind of inverted it. So I was almost uninterested, which is kind of what you're taught not to be when you're interviewing someone.
Yeah, and on dates, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's like the anti-date and interview.
It also struck me that actually, I think a lot of the time people want women on screen to be likable. Mm-hmm. And obviously, because you're emphasizing the kind of awkwardness of the setup, you've completely gone against that with the kind of format that you've created. And I find that like a really interesting and there's something quite powerful about choosing to do that. You're doing all of the things that you're not supposed to do.
What connects with you most about interviewing someone?
For me, I would say it's about, the ability to be the first listener to just the most extraordinary stories. So definitely like that natural curiosity thing, but also Desert Island Discs is you really sometimes get quite deep with someone and actually the conversation is right there. You're listening to it in your ear. There's something really magical about that.
For me, it's about showing a different side to that guest personality. So I will watch kind of all the interviews they've done, or if they've been on Desert Island Discs, to try and get a sense of what they've been asked before and kind of what they're sort of known as, and then just figure out what kind of person I want to show them as. And then obviously that changes when I'm sat opposite them, but that's what I really love about it. And I also feel like, for me, being weird, like asking a weird question or myself being weird, they are then more relaxed. Yeah. Because they're like, well, at least I'm not as weird as her.
Chicken Shop Dates started out in a magazine, but was YouTube always going to be the platform for you?
I think YouTube was always going to be the platform because it's so accessible, which is why it's so appealing, because I could kind of connect with a whole range of different people and just get it out there to the masses. And the fact that you can be so creative with it, and also the fact that you can connect with your fans so intimately in the sense that people can comment. And actually, YouTube comments is where I also do a lot of my research. And I'll look at the comments and I'll get a sense of what people think about that person, or kind of get into the mind of the fan.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great way to carve questions.
It's interesting that you say that, because I completely agree. I always start with my listener. So in radio, we would never say my listeners. It's always the audience of one. I think George Orwell came up with that phrase when he was working at the BBC, and he wrote about this essay called Poetry in the Microphone. So can you make art on this newfangled medium, which is radio? And if you put them first, I think editorially you probably won't go too far wrong. We've had a couple of people crossing over, actually, because one of my castaways, Louis Theroux, one of your big heroes. Who have some of your favourite dates been? Would you choose one, or would that feel unfair to the other exes?
Exactly. I know I can't put one on a pedestal. Because I'm in creative control and I choose the guests, I wouldn't approach a guest if I wasn't already a fan. But Louis Theroux for sure was one of my favourite episodes, because he was such a hero of mine. And a lot of my awkward interview style comes directly from him. And then what happened as a consequently
This
crazy.
is the thing. So your conversation with him, you invite him to rap, and then the rap that he does is then endlessly remixed and becomes this kind of anthem.
Can you remember any of the rap that you did?
My money don't jiggle jiggle, it folds. I'd like to see you wiggle wiggle, for sure. It makes me want to dribble dribble. You know, riding in my Fiat, you really have to see it. 6'2" in a compact, no slack. But luckily the seats go back. I got a knack to relax in my mind. I'm sipping some red wine.
But yeah, I guess if I wasn't such a fan or didn't do that kind of sort of in-depth research into people, then I wouldn't have known about the fact that he did that rap in one of his documentaries over 20 years ago.
So you run your own shop, a production company.
As a content creator on YouTube, essentially you kind of have your own production company from the beginning, but it's just never formalised. Then I formalised it 2 years ago, called Dimsing. And yeah, I make Chicken Shop Day. I have my cooking show on my YouTube channel as well, Amelia's Cooking Show. Interesting title. And then I had a series with Dave on their YouTube channel called Who Cares, which was like a Vox Pop series where I was speaking to the public about different current affairs subjects. And I wanted to sort of look at that subject through speaking to other people and using that as kind of like a democratic way of broaching a subject through just what other people had to say. And then the plan is to kind of make content for other people in the future and kind of broaden out how many formats I can have on YouTube.
You must have gone from feeling that it was this very much this DIY thing, and that you were a bit of a kind of lone wolf, even an outsider to this big kind of media industry, and actually to choose to then, you know, have your own production company and kind of formalise that. You must have seen the value in being different.
I feel like the best thing that's ever happened to me is like to just to make Chicken Shop Day and make it on my own terms and just be in creative control, because I don't think that Chicken Shop Day would exist if it went any other way or if it was part of like a big media company. To have the freedom, especially as a woman, to create your own show and have it to be your own vision is kind of amazing. I'm interested to know, like, working with some of the biggest broadcasters, like, how do you work in tandem with your production?
It varies production to production. I mean, ultimately, you know, when you're presenting, you're the person whose job it is to articulate this whole team of people's vision. But obviously, one of the great things about radio is that you just have a lot more autonomy as a broadcaster. You know, often when I do my Six Music breakfast show, that's just me, a couple of team members and a mic, and that's it. And we just, our editorial guideline in the studio, is it pleasing? If it is pleasing, it goes in the show. If it's not pleasing, it doesn't.
Do you think that it helps that Desert Island Discs isn't filmed and you don't see that kind of visual side?
I do.
Do you think it makes people open up more?
Definitely. You know, there's just the two of you in a room having a conversation. It's something very intimate. And also I think that changes the quality of the experience for the listener, because of the way that they consume that content. You know, they're listening to it and it's part of their day. It might be part of their weekend ritual, or they might have grown up listening to the program. It's 80 years old. So all of these things kind of combine to make it unlike other programs and very special. And we're quite mindful of that among the team. We all care about it as much as everybody who listens to it at home.
Yeah, as a listener of Desert Island Discs and just of radio and watching things, I really appreciate this sincerity in programs. And actually, funnily enough, I immediately take that out of Chicken Shop Day. If somebody is sincere,
if it gets real, you just...
I delete.
The Chicken Shop Day is not the place for deep chats.
No, it's not. So what makes an ideal interviewee?
For me, the ideal interviewee is they kind of have nothing to prove. It's always lovely to get people when, you know, they've had the success that they want to have and they can just kind of enjoy it at this point.
For me, the best kind of interviewee is someone who's never done an interview before, or somebody that
Yes.
doesn't do interviews.
Yes.
Like if they are very, very particular and have done like one or just refuse to kind of meet any kind of journalist, like, wow, that just really just
But it
gets me
makes the
going.
research a nightmare. I mean, I was lucky enough to interview Kate Moss for Desert Island Discs, which
Love
was
that
obviously a
episode.
complete dream come true. But you go looking for source material and there's none there.
That was such a joy to listen to. She also has the most amazing voice as well.
So Chicken Chop Day is huge now. I mean, you regularly get 1 million views. How has it become so successful, do you think? Can you drill down into the factors?
I think that maybe the fact that it's a different way of interviewing someone, the fact that it's a date, the fact that I play this awkward character, the guests that I have on, I try and make it so that the guests are people that are of the moment or people that my audience are really interested in. I also think in terms of like the success of something, what both our shows do well is they have such a clear format. And I think that as a viewer, people can really connect with something that's so simple in the way that it's presented.
And they can play along.
So has an interviewee ever given you a brilliant piece of life advice or made you think differently about something?
My favourite piece of advice that I ever got from an artist was a member of the band Songhoi Blues. He said to me that there's a saying in Mali, which is, everybody hears when the tree falls down, but you never hear the forest growing. And I thought that was such a brilliantly insightful way of expressing what culture is. But I think that helped me crystallise that actually my job as a broadcaster is about the forest growing. It's about culture and being constructive.
So what's been the most valuable lesson you've learned as an interviewer and a broadcaster?
Really listen, to completely be in the conversation, focus on the person, do all of your prep and all of your work beforehand so that you can then put it in the hinterland. That's how someone described it to me. You know, you have all of your knowledge and all of the stuff that you want to know and you want to ask, but that's kind of on this outside circle. You're in the moment, in the conversation, reacting to the person as they are and prepared to kind of go where they take you. If you wouldn't tap someone on the shoulder and interrupt what they were doing to say it, why put it in your program? Why write it? Why, you know, it has to be good enough to kind of disrail somebody's day.
I remember listening to Graham Norton being interviewed, and he said something that's always stuck with me, which is, if it's not funny or if it's not entertaining, it's not going in. And I think that's definitely something that I've always tried to stick by. And if they're going to sit there with a straight face, then only me can do that. I'm the one with a straight face. Everyone else needs to be laughing.
Yeah.
It's my greatest talent, maybe, that I have.
And Amelia, if you could give your younger self a piece of career advice, what would it be?
Well, I was like a very ambitious child. So I would give myself some advice, but I would also just say well done for being persistent. Because I think that's how I've got to where I am today, is just by, you know, sending so many emails, by being in every single after school club, by carrying on with something when it wasn't getting any views. So I would say 100% believe in your idea and be persistent, and kind of annoy people to the point where they end up saying yes. I would also say I owe so much to my friends, people that I met when I was at this youth club in Northwest London. If it wasn't for me collaborating with them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So I think use your friends.
Yeah. Well, thanks for today. It's been so much fun.
Thank you, Lauren. It's been great to meet you.
Do I get a second date or what?
Absolutely. We'll have to go to the chicken shop though.